Rishi Sunak's Rwanda plan scrapes through as Tory rebel MPs mass abstain, but PM faces fresh New Year revolt. Rishi Sunak was handed a reprieve last night as rebel Tory MPs let his Rwanda bill clear its first hurdle but warned they could still wreck it. More than 24 right-wingers refused to back the PM's emergency deportation legislation by abstaining, kicking the battle to toughen it up into the new year. After a day of drama and haggling, including a breakfast summit in No 10, not a single Tory rebel voted against the bill. A total of 313 MPs voted for the bill and 269 voted against, a majority of 44. But the revolt ringleaders warned the stay of execution might only be temporary. They have threatened to vote the legislation down when it returns to the Commons next year unless it includes a block on individual migrants appealing against their removal to Rwanda. This potentially leaves Mr. Sunak snookered, as moderate MPs on the opposite wing of the Tory party would be opposed to any further hardening of the bill. That means they might vote it down instead. Last night, a Tory rebel on the right of the party put the Prime Minister on notice. They said, "This bill has been allowed to live another day. But without amendments it will be killed next month. It's now up to the government to decide what it wants to do." The right-wing rebels are an alliance of 5 different Tory groups, dubbed the Five Families. Leader Marc Francois said, "We have decided collectively that we cannot support the bill because of its many omissions." For large parts of yesterday, the bill had looked to be in jeopardy with white knuckles in Downing Street. In a bizarre twist, the climate change minister Graham Stewart was flown back from the COP28 summit in Dubai just to vote. Rebels were angry with the government's handling of their concerns. At one stage, it was briefed they would face consequences if they voted against the bill. This led to right-wing big beast Sir Bill Cash angrily confronting Chief Whip Simon Hart for making the veiled threat to strip wavering MPs of the whip. Last night, Mr. Hart was in the crosshairs as rebel sources described his engagement with them as woeful. The PM personally led a day of ferocious lobbying that began with a dawn breakfast meeting of the New Conservatives caucus. Over bacon buttas, the PM implored the hardliners to back the bill and dangled the prospect of tightening it up in the new year. He followed it up with a last-ditch appeal stressing, "To stop the boats, we need to back this bill." Party tensions were laid bare in a fiery Commons debate where Home Secretary James cleverly made the case for the government. Flanked by the PM, he said, "This is an innovative and humane solution to a growing global problem." Rising star rebel Danny Kruger bluntly told the PM that he should pull the bill and commit to making amendments, but if he refused to budge, MPs would vote against in numbers. Fellow backbencher Jonathan Gulleys said like-minded MPs still had grave concerns about the legislation as it meant individual claims could be launched. He added, "I still have those concerns that we will end up being bogged down with individual claims that mean that we'll see very few people put on the plane to Rwanda." Former cabinet minister David Jones threatened to halt the government in its tracks, which would undermine the PM's authority. He told Times Radio, "We believe we have the numbers, if necessary, to stop the bill progressing." But Mr. Sunak does not have much wriggle room as the One Nation caucus of Tory centrists will not stomach any hardening. Senior Tory Bob Neal said the Rwanda plan sailed as close to the wind as possible. Following the result, the PM posted on X, formerly Twitter, "The British people should decide who gets to come to this country, not criminal gangs or foreign courts. That's what this bill delivers. We will now work to make it law so that we can get flights going to Rwanda and stop the boats." There were 38 Conservative MPs listed as having no vote recorded, although this does not automatically equate to an abstention. The division list released by the Commons authorities indicates that 307 Tory MPs voted for the bill, along with 5 independent MPs. These included Peter Bone, who has had the Conservative whip suspended. Last night Mr. Francois said, the Prime Minister has been telling colleagues today he is prepared to entertain tightening the bill. With that aim, at the committee stage, we will aim to table an amendment which would, we hope, if accepted, materially improve the bill and remove some of its weaknesses. Home Secretary Mr. Cleverly said Parliament has spoken after Mr. Sunak won the crunch vote. Also taking to X, Mr. Cleverly wrote, "We must be able to choose who comes to our country, not criminal gangs. That's what this bill will deliver." Labour's Yvette Cooper said last night, "The Conservative civil war is continuing and the country is paying the price for this chaos." Today's debate shows how weak Rishi Sunak is, with this Tory psychodrama now dragging on into the new year. They've broken the Tory party, broken the asylum system and broken every promise they have made to the British people. Britain deserves better than this.